He answered me then, this book of 2nd Exodus, chapter 9 and verse 2, Salakia. He answered me then and said, measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs past, which I have told thee before, then shalt thou well understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Barak Tha Yahweh, Barak Tha Yahweh Shai, Barak Tha Yahweh, Barak Tha Yahweh Shai, Barak Tha Yahweh, Barak Tha Yahweh Shai, Call Lord La Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, Rule Web, and the great example to the younger brothers in the truth. And peace and blessing to the hopeful elect, Lord willing is edifying.
What's going on here?
Well, that's exactly what we're trying to figure out, isn't it? Just what the hell is going on here?
Yeah, what the hell's going on?
Here's a story for you. This one's weird too. It's been the story of weird, the newscast filled with kind of bizarre stories today.
But a new study conducted by NYU may have found some answers.
But what's happened now is that science has come to a point where it has to start correlating what the spiritual world has been saying all along.
What I think is interesting is that you have what we call these dissociative states, which is why people would use these drugs, for recreational purposes. But it kind of takes you away from your own body, gets you to see things in a different kind of way. So it's super interesting stuff.
Well, those people who have these very deep, profound, mystical experiences, often they describe a sensation of being very peaceful, seeing a bright, warm, welcoming light, sometimes deceased relatives. And intriguingly, some of them describe a sensation of a being that they describe as being perfect and full of light and love and compassion.
Well, does psychedelics hyperstimulate the imitation awe system? And is that an illusion, or is it in fact the revelation of something deeper?
To circle back to the ontological question. So just recently I listened to a lecture that Francis Collins gave. Now, so Francis Collins, you may recognize, is director of the National Institutes on Health, and he was also the director of the Human Genome Project. So he's as strongly credentialed a scientist as one can have, and yet he's a absolutely confirmed Christian. And so he was giving a lecture on the reconciliation of, I think he called it harmonization of a scientific and religious worldview. But he was laying out his arguments for the existence of God, and one of them is what would be his claim, and it's an interesting claim, and you could argue it, but the existence of moral law, that there is an absolute moral law.
He was talking about a natural ethic.
Yeah, I think as a pointer to God, something absolute about the nature of what moral law is. And from that standpoint, if you're willing to go that route, then maybe these experiences are actually pointing to something that is absolute and true and informative.
Do you think that's true?
I don't know. I'm a scientist.
Look, it's fine to be investigating it, I don't want to pin you down.
No, let's see. I'm trained as a scientist. My default is to be deeply curious and to be deeply skeptical. So
right, which is the right attitude towards all of this.
And so my response always is that I believe in the data, and so.
And these devils, let's get this. This Psalms chapter, they corner. He say he believe in data, but that's not faith, man. And people saying these devils gonna come up with a spiritual mark. These people are carnal men. They believe in things they can touch and feel. They don't believe in spiritual things. They have no faith. We believe in things. Faith is the substance of things hoped for. Hebrews, let's just get it. Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 1. This is the book of Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. See, we have faith in the things that we don't see. Verse 2, for by it the elders obtained a good report. Verse 3, through faith we understand that the world were framed by the word of Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai, or by the word of Yahweh. And the word is Yahweh Shai. So that things which are seen were made of things for things which are not seen. Hold up, let me reread that. So that things which are seen were not made by things which do appear. You know, and then it go on through the accounts of the righteous in their faith. But this guy has no faith. And they trust in science. And all science mean is to know. And these devils, they have a lot of theories, man. This Psalms chapter 14, well, let's get this one first. This 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 19. 1 Timothy chapter 6 and verse 20. O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust. Avoid profane and vain babbling. And you talking to a scientist, there's a lot of profane and vain babbling, man. In oppositions of science, falsely so called. Yeah, because science mean to know. A lot of the stuff that these scientists, they just go by different data and different things of that nature. So they do a diligent search. But it's all in vain, man. You know, it's vain and profane babbling. Because a lot of stuff, it just be a theory, something that they don't know. You know, just a scientific guess, so to speak. You know, a Edomite guess, man. This Psalms 14 and 1. The fool have said in his heart, there is no God. They are corrupt. They have done abominable works. There is none that doeth good. Going into you Edomites, man, first and foremost, man.
So that remains an open question, but it's certainly fun to toy with as an alternative framing of what's going on. I mean, we're in the middle of this huge mystery.
50 years ago, psychedelic drugs were at the center of America's counterculture, promising good trips and some very bad trips too. Today, the DEA restricts psychedelics as Schedule I drugs with no currently accepted medical use and a high potential for abuse.
I do believe there's a place for drugs that we as a society, or maybe our government have told us are completely evil. Obviously, you shouldn't take them without some recommendation or some help from a doctor. At the same time, Bob, you know, reuptake inhibitors and some of the other meds that people go on, they can be pretty harmful. I've seen people do some strange stuff and react in very negative ways as a result of those. So I guess what I'm suggesting is there may be a place in the middle for this. There may be a compromise.
But unlike the 1960s psychedelics, the meds are clinically calculated.
Are you encouraged, excited by what you've learned so far?
Oh, I think there's nothing more interesting that I have done in my almost 50 years of doing clinical pharmacology research. There's nothing that compares to this. We're wired to have these kinds of experiences.
Yeah, so that in itself is an absolute radical claim. You know, I mean, I've gone after some of the Darwinians the atheistic Darwinians that I've talked to for failing to take into account what I regard as the preponderance of scientific evidence indicating that the religious instinct is real and that it's biologically grounded. It's like, okay, it's real, it's biologically grounded. What do you have to say about that from an evolutionary perspective then? Is that a spandrel? It's like, no, because it looks like it's central to the development of human culture itself. Not only is it not a spandrel, it's like the opposite of a spandrel. And so what are we supposed to conclude if we conclude that the religious instinct has actually evolved? It's deeply biological, and it speaks of like a benevolent and truth-oriented teleological reality. That is not the way our culture is constructed.
What's more,
You hear all them words they saying, man. This is vain, profane babbling, man. What the fuck is they talking about? It's confusing, man. All these big ass words and all this talk that go nowhere, man. You know, but the Lord say He made the Lord said in the New Testament, the wisdom of this world is foolishness to the Most High, and this bullshit to us too, man. What are you talking about, man? All these big ass words, you ain't explaining what that shit mean or nothing, man. Saying all them damn confusing ass words.
important than this, Jordan? What's more important than finding out what's going on here?
Well, I actually can't believe how important this is. You know, I mean, I've been studying the psychedelic literature for 20 years and in as deep a manner as I can possibly manage. And every time I think I have some grasp on how important it is, I learn something else and I think, oh, it's way more important than I thought it was. It's of crucial significance. It's literally of central significance. It's literally of central significance.
And really, to be honest with you, until about 50 years ago, that was the point of death. So people become lifeless, motionless, the brain shuts down. But now through advances in medicine, we can actually bring people back to life even after they've gone beyond that threshold of death, and study what happens to them. And one of the interesting things, of course, is that the brain...
And that's what these devils trying to do, man. You know, they trying to present science as the savior, man. You know, trying to X out the Messiah and give the world science, man. But let's get this Psalm 64 and verse 1. It say, the chief musician, a psalm of David. Hear my voice, O Yahweh. In my prayer, preserve my life from the fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsels of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who whet their tongue like a sword, and bendeth their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words, that they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him and fear not. They encourage themselves in the evil matter. They can commune of laying snares privately. They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquity. They accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. You know, and that's going into ultimately the elite bankers. Now, we know it's talking about, see, David was prophesying, and he also was talking about the things that were going on with him, between him and King and Saul. Well, he was the king at the time. And Saul, the house of Saul, you know, these people coming up against him, trying to get him put to death and trick him and, you know, get him caught up so they could kill him. You know, but ultimately it's talking about Esau, Edom, man. You know, because we know who the wicked is and we know who our true enemy is. That's Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. You know, these elite bankers first and foremost, man. They accomplish a diligent search through their scientists, all these experiments they do, the diggings up, the archaeology, all that. They accomplish a diligent search, man.
Completely shuts down, as I said. But what's fascinating is that the cells inside the body, and particularly the cells inside the brain, do not suddenly become annihilated. They go through a process of decay that can take a few hours, which is why we can actually medically bring people back to life after they have technically gone beyond that threshold of death for tens of minutes, if not hours of time afterwards. And that, of course, raises many interesting questions about what happens when we die.
So you have this study showing that cancer sufferers take psilocybin and they show a marked reduction in the fear of death. And that gets stranger the more deeply you investigate it. And there's these ancient Eleusinian mysteries that seem to be associated with something like the experience of a voyage to the land of the dead. an encounter with ancestral spirits, a religious transformation, and then the eradication.
And the things they are talking about are all written in the scriptures. Like people be having seizures or on their deathbed, they come up with accounts of how they seen somebody, you know, who was dead, you know, because they be in between, you know, the spiritual world and the physical world, man. You know, just like people can summon up different spirits, just like the witch summoned up Samson or Samuel for King Saul, man. You know, and Samuel got mad like, why you fucking with me, man, bringing me up, and you know, and he told him like, shit, you gonna die in battle, man. You know, letting them know the Lord is displeased with you. The kingdom is ripped from you. It ain't your kingdom no more, so to speak. You know, so these things are real, man. You know, it ain't no question, no ifs, ands, or buts. See, they boggled, man, about what, you know, our faith, what the Lord gave us, the gift the Lord gave us to believe. We know these things are real, man. You know, the scriptures say that he chose the foolish things of the world to confound the wise. You know, he chose the foolish things of the world to confound these devils, and we are considered the foolish. We ain't all doctors and master degrees and studied up for 20 and 30 years on bullshit. No, we just believe and trust in the scriptures, man. And the knowledge we have far surpassed the knowledge of these people who done studied for all these years. Not saying that certain brothers ain't been to college, ain't been, you know, got their master's or doctorate degrees or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's all foolishness. You know, you ain't had no real knowledge till you came into this truth, ultimately.
Or at least the diminution of the fear of death. But all of that mythological baggage, so to speak, went along with the experience. So there's a journey of some sort to a place of some sort that seems to have commonality across different individuals, strangely enough, that results in this pronounced transformation of the existential consideration of mortality itself. So it's, again, of sufficient significance so that there's no end to how deeply you can investigate it.
And what's happened is that, I mean, this is a secret that they've known in ancient Egypt. They know it in the Vatican. Everywhere you go in the Vatican, you see this pine.
Right, and no one knew what it was. Yeah. I want to continue this because we actually have a clip from this video talking about just this. It's fascinating.
Amazing.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
These traditions are correct in believing that it serves as the connecting link between the physical and spiritual worlds.
Fascinating. It's fascinating.
And what Esau trying to do is this, man. You know, he trying to put himself on a level as the Most High. You know, he want to be as the Most High. So what he trying to do is figure it out, but he never will. He gonna just bug himself out. You seen how he was struggling, like trying to think. Yeah, because you gonna fuck yourself up, man. This Isaiah chapter 55 and verse 8. For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are my ways your ways, saith the Lord Yahweh. For as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my ways higher than your ways, and my thoughts higher than your thoughts. So you just gonna bug yourself out trying to figure these things out. You can't do it, man. You know, that's why the men of the Lord, we ain't trying to figure nothing out like that, man. We don't care. Hey, we gonna get that when the Lord return and change us, man. Right now, we just focused on doing the will of Yahweh Shem Yahweh, and that's pronouncing judgment on you heathens, man, and preaching repentance and the gospel unto the elect of the nation of Israel, because those are the only ones who gonna get it, man. And judgment upon 2/3. You people are finna be put to death and rooted out the way, man. And the Lord is gonna deliver his elect.
Why has science, like Western science, had such a hard time kind of saying, okay, there's something to this?
Well, because somebody who deals in the spirit just has to say, I've had an experience, and he believes it, and he doesn't have to prove anything. The scientist has to prove it. He has to say, look, I can see it, it's here, I'm holding it, it's tangible.
And we're actually analyzing data from a huge survey right now on changed attitudes about death and dying secondary to psychedelic exposure.
No, I'm an intensive care doctor, so my job is to essentially save people's lives and prevent them from dying. But unfortunately, people do die, and we try to revive them. What we have found is that over the last few decades, many millions of people have now come back, and many of them have reported, actually, anecdotally, that they've been able to see and hear things going on, even though from our perspective, they should have been dead, and their brain should not be functioning at all. And so we became intrigued to study this, one, because it was fascinating.
That there's something.
And the only reason those things happen or can happen is because the Lord is not allowing them to be put to death. Ultimately, he got a more ultimate, that's not their judgment to die at that exact moment. No, you can't revive nobody who the Lord won't dead. All that reviving and this and that. No, you ain't did a damn thing. When the Lord wants your head dead, he take the spirit out the body and it won't come back in it. Simple as that. Let's get Deuteronomy. Because people think as if they have some kind of power of saving lives and bringing people back and doing all. No, you don't, man. It's the Lord who do all these things, man. If somebody come back, they can be dead in the grave. The Lord can raise them up out of it, man. That's the Lord put that spirit back in that body. Deuteronomy chapter 32 and verse 39, it reads, see now that I, even now am he, and there is no power, no God with me. I kill and I make alive, I wound and I heal, neither is there any that can deliver out of my hand. So if a person is able to be revived, it's ultimately because the Lord don't want that person to so-called be put to death at that moment, man. And ultimately what he doing is he building up the pride in Esau. He hardening the heart of the Pharaoh, man. Esau getting that God-like complex because he think he came up with a way to revive people, CPR, and shocking the motherfucker, whatever that shit called. I forgot what it's called. Damn. But shocking their heart and, doing all this stuff to keep a person alive, putting them on ventilators and, breathing machines or whatever, he feel as he's the one who keeping the person alive. No, it's the Lord who allowed them to stay alive. Until that day come for all of us.
About this mystery that we find ourselves in.
So our life is dependent on death because our cells are constantly dying, and the fact of our healthy existence is actually paradoxically dependent on death itself. The proper amount of death keeps us healthy. And it's so interesting because that's also true psychologically, is that you have to let old concepts die. Death plays a restorative role. It's something like the precursor to resurrection. And God only knows where that idea goes. But I believe that these mystical experiences provide a window into that there's this mechanism of death at work, but it's a reparative and creative mechanism, all things considered. It's building towards something that we have an intuition of and want to participate in, and are tortured by our conscience for not participating in. And a glimpse of that it at least shows you that there's more going on than you think.
To our scientific model, when people have died, there should be no more conscious awareness going on. But it sounds like maybe consciousness is able to continue. And by that, I don't mean that they're awake, but that entity that makes us who we are, makes Sam who he is, makes Rena who she is, the self, the mind, seems to
Basically, he talking about the spirit. Yeah, because everybody has a spirit in them. Like the scriptures say. And that go to prove that reincarnation is real, because that spirit when the Lord is ready for it, it's gonna come back up to the Lord, and that person gonna die and be put into the grave. But that spirit always come back upon the earth to receive his judgment from his past life, man, or lives. You know.
Continue and doesn't become annihilated after a person has gone through their process of death.
No, it don't become annihilated, because the Lord, incorruptible spirit, is in all things. Our spirit belongs to Yahweh Shem Yahweh. We are part of Yahweh Shem. We are part of Yahweh, man. Not Yahweh Shem Yahweh. We are all a part of Yahweh. You know, even the heathens, everything, the grass, the germ, everything that is the Lord, incorruptible spirit is in all things, man. Incorruptible, undestroyable, everlasting spirit is in all things.
A shift in worldview, a shift in a sense of the nature of consciousness, maybe having an eternal quality to it. With a psychedelic, it's almost impossible not to be astonished by how much and humbled by how much you don't understand about the nature of your own mind and the nature of reality. And so we're confronted with this mystery of what is this about? How is it, that we're these highly evolved beings, that have developed the capacity to sense things, to walk, to talk. We've developed societies. We've developed, science as a method.
We ain't developed the damn thing. It's the Lord who give us all these things, man. The Lord gave us the senses to walk, talk, smell. The scripture said in the Apocrypha, I ain't gonna get it, but it go into the senses. The Lord gave us 7 senses. If I ain't mistaken, I might try to find it.
Methodology, we can communicate. And on top of all that, the astonishing fact is that we're aware that we're aware.
And I certainly think that the book of Revelation bears all the hallmarks of a classic psychedelic experience. So then I'm thinking, well, what are you supposed to think about that exactly? I mean, I take the fact that our society is Judeo-Christian and its underlying narrative structure extremely seriously. I think that's true as a fact. Whether it's the right way for things to be is a different question, but and also an important question. But I have no idea how to conceptualize our relationship with psychedelics. I'm also extremely curious. I mean, this place, do you think it's reasonable to conceptualize the destination place of a trip as a place? I mean, that's what Greek mythology appears to do. That's what the mythology of the underworld appears to be about, as far as I can tell. What do you think about? We've talked about how psychedelics shed a different light on the structure of reality as we perceive it, but people also report going places that aren't here exactly. The idea, the shamanic idea that the universe,
and that's just all in the scriptures. Paul even said that he, when he got knocked off the horse, he went up to the third heaven, where the Most High dwell, and he seen things that were not lawful to utter, man. These things are all explained through the scriptures. They trying to figure it out and get the data of it so they can explain it on a Edomite level, man. But they'll never figure it out, man. These devils finna go into slavery, and he ain't gonna have to scratch his head about trying to figure all that out no more. Then they gonna be trying to figure out how he gonna pick that amethyst, man. How he gonna mine these precious rubies and stones, man. How he gonna pave these rows of gold. That's what these devils finna have to figure out, man. Nothing on the level of Yahweh Shem Yahweh, man. Nothing.
Is a tree. I believe that that's the tree of size, essentially. That's the realm from the subatomic to the cosmic. That's how that's portrayed in the in the primordial human imagination, and the shaman report traveling up and down those levels. And that's not out of keeping with the experiences that people report on psychedelics, unsurprisingly, because hypothetically they're derived from the same domain. And then there's the entity problem as well, especially with DMT. I know Rick Strassman, who studied DMT so intently, and I have never met Rick, but my impression from reading him is that he was a pretty buttoned down sort of guy when he got into the psychedelic field. He wasn't driven in there from the hippie end of things. It was more from the, skeptical intellect type or direction. But he appears to have been so shocked by what the DMT experience produced in terms of reports from people that, it was shocking to him, to say the least. And no wonder, because it seems that everyone who takes DMT reports going somewhere very fast and encountering all sorts of alien entities. But they also describe that as hyper-real, and if you object that those are figures of the imagination or even Jungian archetypes among those who would know of that sort of thing, that's not an acceptable explanation.
And those drugs and stuff are not, or you ain't gonna see figments. No, when you get intoxicated, that's why they call liquor spirits, And also the other drugs, if you do too many, if you do a whole bunch of drugs, it open you up to the spiritual world, especially psychedelic drugs, man. It open you up to the spirit world. That's what it do. And Esau know these things. He accomplished the damn diligent search, man. That's why he, study this stuff. Because he trying to figure out and trying to understand the Lord, man. But he never will, man.
Apparently. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, and well, this story with Rick Strassman is interesting because it was literally so disquieting to him that he ended up stopping his research because he had such a high rate of his participants, talking about encountering entities within that he didn't know how to manage that. So one of the survey studies...
Who does? Right? Because it's just, what do you do with it? What do you do with data? Like, you said you go where the data drives you, and fair enough, but sometimes the data itself is, you don't know what to do with it. And the DMT...
Yeah, and they probably getting data. Yeah, we seen black men. I think I seen the Lord, and he was a black, the angels, they were black, I seen UFO, they probably, telling it like it is, man. They like, oh, hell nah, we got to stop this shit. Truth gonna get out.
Experiences certainly seem to fall in that category.
Yeah, so we've run a number of interesting survey studies, and you mentioned them at the outset. We actually ended up getting data on 2,500 people who had had a DMT entity encounter experience. And most of them ended up feeling that they had encountered a sentient and a conscious, benevolent, often sacred other in these experiences, which was surprising to us because based on the literature, I had thought that these entity encounter experiences might be something different than that. But importantly, most of the people claim to come out of the experience with a different sense of reality. The majority of them continue to think that the entity existed after the experience continues to exist.
Yeah, because it do. They were probably seeing the angels, seeing the Lord. It was a black man. He was tall. He was dressed beautifully, white woolly hair. He was scary, And he exists. It's real. America's gonna be destroyed. Let me stop. They probably saying all kind of shit. We gotta stop this shit. Everybody saying the same thing. That's the Lord, man. The Lord showing everybody the same type shit. And they seeing the angels, seeing Yahweh Shai, the Heavenly Father, encountering, going into the spiritual realm, and coming back telling them, giving them the account of it, man.
So they're not mere figments of the imagination.
No, absolutely not. Their conception of reality has been shifted in a really fundamental and primary way, and so that's haunting. Now,
They hold your hand, you listen to music, you trip out, literally. They keep you right there. They don't want somebody on a bad trip running out the door and jumping out of a window. They keep you there. But as you work through this whole thing, according to the researchers, people come out feeling alive again.
Wow. Wow, that's astonishing. Well, keep us posted, Tom.
Thanks, Tom.
You didn't try it yourself.
No, don't try this at home. I didn't do it.
Okay.
All right. This particular study is the largest study ever carried out in the world. It was done in 15 medical centers across the US and in Europe. And we studied more than 2,000 people who'd gone through this cardiac arrest or process of death. And we did not expect people to...
You see what they say, consciousness can extend past death. It do extend past death, man. When your spirit goes to the Heavenly Father, you know, it's still, you know, this body die. Your spirit don't die. We've been trying to tell you fools, man. You know? And not talking to the brothers and sisters. I'm talking about you Edomites, man. Because we teaching y'all ass too, man. The Lord made us a prophet unto the nation. We letting you know the mind of the Lord through the scriptures, man. You know? The spirit don't die. The spirit is the thought that's in your head. Your personality, everything about you is that spirit. When you die, that consciousness, that spirit don't die, go up to the Heavenly Father.
have any consciousness or awareness, but intriguingly, up to 40% of people came back and had a perception of being aware of what was happening to them, even though they had technically gone beyond the threshold of death.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. One of the striking features of the DMT encounters was that the attributions made to the entity really mapped onto the same kinds of attributions that people describe in their God encounter experiences. So those are more similar than...
I told you. Hey, I ain't even watched the whole video, but hey, I knew they were gonna come out and say it. Let's go back, you know? Make sure I ain't tripping.
One of the striking features of the DMT encounters.
One of the striking features of the DMT encounters, who they experiment on with the hallucinogens, genesis, however you say that. And what did Paul have? Basically a spirit, a counsel with the Lord, man. You know, when he died, he went to the third heaven, you know.
Was that the attributions made to the entity really mapped onto the same kinds of attributions that people describe in their God encounter experiences. So those are more similar.
Ooh. But y'all see it, man.
What's going on here?
So like it. Let's start it over. Let's hear it one more time.
One of the striking features of the DMT encounters was that the attributions made to the entity really mapped onto the same kinds of attributions that people describe in their God encounter experiences. So those are more similar than different. Now, if you read that DMT literature, you get, other wild descriptions of, alligators and insectoids and
mechanical clowns and
yeah,
it's really it just makes things weirder the more you read about the experiences.
And that was that's pretty much the point. That's another edition of Measured Out of Time Diligently. Lord willing, this is edifying. I want to end to giving all honor and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem, Yahweh Shai, by Hashem, Rakakadash, double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone rule, web, and the great example to the young brothers in the truth, and peace and blessing to the hopeful elect. Shalom, Kwam Yasha Allah, and the Bible Ball. Shalom.